Where is the safest place to live in Japan? Insights from a leading earthquake expert. Japan is known around the world as an earthquake-prone country. Whether you're a resident or just someone interested in Japan, you've probably wondered where is the safest place to live in Japan. It's a question that crosses everyone's mind at least once, especially after witnessing major earthquakes on the news or experiencing tremors firsthand. Today, let's take a deep dive into this question by exploring the insights of Professor Hirohiro Kamata, an emeritus professor of geology at Kyoto University. In a recent interview featured in Diamond Online, Professor Kamata offered some surprising perspectives on earthquake risk and safety in Japan. His answers challenge common assumptions and encourage us to rethink how we approach disaster preparedness. Japan enters a new era of seismic activity. First, let's set the stage. According to Professor Kamata and many other experts, since the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake, the entire Japanese archipelago has entered what is called a major tectonic activity era. This means that the country is now in a period where earthquakes and even volcanic eruptions are more likely to occur. The reason is that the enormous strain that had built up over decades, or even centuries, is now being released. This process, experts say, is expected to continue for several more decades. What does this mean for people living in Japan? Essentially, no region is immune to the risk of earthquakes. The entire country is in a heightened state of seismic activity, and everyone needs to be aware of this reality. Kyoto's earthquake risk, is it really dangerous? The Diamond Online article focuses on a question many people have: is Kyoto a safe place to live? Kyoto is world famous for its historical sites, temples, and beautiful scenery. But like many places in Japan, it sits near active faults. In the city center, there is the Hanauri Fault, and in nearby Fuji City, there is the so-called Ghost Fault. When people hear about these faults, the natural reaction is to think, isn't it dangerous to live so close to a fault line? Professor Kamata acknowledges this concern. In the interview, he clearly states that living near an active fault does carry risks. However, he adds an important point: this is not unique to Kyoto. Many cities and regions across Japan are near active faults. So, if you're thinking about moving from Kyoto to another city just to avoid a specific fault, you might not actually be making yourself much safer. An unexpected answer: I would still choose Kyoto. Here's where Professor Kamata's perspective becomes truly interesting. When asked directly where he would choose to live in Japan, given all his knowledge as a geologist, he answers, I would definitely choose Kyoto. This might sound surprising, especially after acknowledging the risks of local faults. So, why does he say this? The key lies in how we evaluate and prioritize risks. While it's important to be aware of local fault lines, Professor Kamata argues that the difference in safety between living near one fault or another is actually quite small when you consider the much larger, nationwide risks that Japan faces. The real threats: mega disasters waiting to happen. Professor Kamata emphasizes that the truly significant risks for people living in Japan are not just local earthquakes, but so-called mega disasters. These include the Nankai Trough megaquake, which could devastate large parts of western Japan, a major earthquake directly beneath the Tokyo metropolitan area, which would impact millions of people and the nation's economy, a possible eruption of Mount Fuji, which could have far-reaching consequences for the entire region. These disasters are not just theoretical, they are considered to be in a standby state, meaning they could happen at any time. Professor Kamata stresses that, no matter where you live in Japan, these are the risks that should be at the top of your mind. Rethinking risk: it's not just about location. This perspective challenges the common way people think about earthquake safety. Many of us focus on the risks of specific locations or fault lines. We might think, if I avoid living near a fault, I'll be safe. But Professor Kamata's message is clear. While local risks are real, they pale in comparison to the potential devastation of a nationwide disaster. In other words, even if you move to a place with fewer local faults, you are still exposed to the possibility of a mega disaster that could affect the entire country. This means that disaster preparedness is not just about choosing the right place to live, it's about being ready for the kinds of events that could happen anywhere, at any time. Preparing for the worst: what should we do? So, what does Professor Kamata recommend? His message is both simple and powerful: survive. He urges everyone in Japan to focus on surviving the largest, most catastrophic disasters. This means taking steps to prepare for events like the Nankai Trough megaquake or a major Tokyo earthquake, rather than just worrying about local fault lines. The article notes that the Nankai Trough megaquake could occur within the next decade. If it happens, it could become one of the most devastating disasters in Japanese history. Professor Kamata's sense of mission as a scientist is clear. He wants to use his knowledge to save as many lives as possible. He even refers to Yukichi Fukuzawa's famous work, an encouragement of learning, positioning himself as an evangelist for science. His goal is to share interesting and useful scientific knowledge that can help people protect themselves. The most important takeaway: prioritize the biggest risks. What should we take away from Professor Kamata's insights? The most important point is this: while we should not ignore the risks of local faults, it is even more crucial to prepare for mega disasters that could impact the entire country. The question of where to live is important, but it ultimately leads to a more universal challenge: how do we prepare ourselves for the worst? Choosing where to live is just one factor. The reality is that all of Japan is in a period of heightened seismic activity. No matter where you are, you could experience a major earthquake or disaster. What matters most is how ready you are to face these challenges. Understanding the nature and scale of different risks, and preparing accordingly, is the key message from Professor Kamata's interview. It's a call to action for everyone living in Japan or anyone interested in disaster preparedness. A final question: are you really prepared? Let's end with a question for you, the viewer. Based on the risk priorities highlighted by Professor Kamata, can you confidently say that you are prepared not just for risks tied to specific locations or faults, but for any earthquake or disaster that could occur anywhere, at any time? Are you ready to survive, no matter what happens? Perhaps this is a good opportunity to pause and reflect on your own preparedness. Take a moment to think about what steps you can take today to protect yourself and your loved ones from the biggest risks Japan faces. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay prepared, and remember, the most important thing is not just where you live, but how you live ready for whatever the future may bring.